Welcome to the Connections with Cass podcast. My name is Cass, and I'm a psychic medium and spiritual coach here on this earth to help bridge the gap between the spirit world and the physical world. And in this podcast, we talk about all things spiritual, all things healing, and a little bit about mediumship as well. In this episode, we are going to be talking about addiction and vices. This particular topic is way overdue because it is something I talk about all the time and is a huge part of my spiritual awakening story and how I learned about energy as well. So let's talk about what addictions and vices are from a spiritual or energetic perspective. I look at everything as energy. We've talked a lot about that in this podcast before. Everything is energy. We are energy. The land that we stand on right now is energy. The trees are energy. The animals are energy. Every experience we have is an energetic exchange. And so, even with substances, that is an energetic exchange. There is something that is going on internally. Typically, it's a heart chakra is blocked due to past traumas, wounds, conditionings, and programmings that is making us feel very separate from God, source, universe, creator, and separate from the unique, beautiful soul that we are. So our mind is operating in a place where we need something external to fill the void within. When in reality, we have the most beautiful, unconditional love and connection to God, source, universe, creator that will fill any of these voids and is literally inside of us and a part of our lives in order to help us navigate these tough situations and these tough feelings that we have in life. But as humans, we typically are looking externally for something in this physical world to fill the void within. Might sound cheesy at this point, where it's like, right, Cass, okay, we have the light within. That's all I need to get over this addiction or vice that I have. But at the base level, yeah, you really do. And I think you have to be able to open your heart to that there is a solution. I think that anybody that struggles with addiction or vices and using things externally to feel better, you have to get to the point where you want to believe that there is a different way to live. And for me, it really took hitting rock bottom for that to happen. I didn't realize how alcohol and substance use was affecting my life, but mostly internally for me. I mean, there were definitely reflections of it in my external life, but I think my mental health and like my connection to who I really was so disconnected through my substance use that I really wasted, 10 years of my life kind of in jobs that weren't super aligned for me or in relationships that weren't super aligned for me or being so reactive and just in a negative vibration in my relationships that I wasn't honoring the gift of life. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, we are here to learn, grow, and evolve. And if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do anything differently because my soul was here to learn those lessons through the experiences that I have. But as I move forward in life, I just look at it very differently, where it's like this life is a gift. We are meant to feel uncomfortable here. That's how we learn. And coming to terms with that and coming to terms with the fact that we have everything within us in order to move through this life and really trusting that and surrendering to that was a huge, huge process that I went through in order to stop using the things externally in order to feel better. In this day and age, we are so accustomed to quick fixes. Everything has a quick fix. Are you tired? Go to Starbucks. There's literally one every mile in this country. When I was on the road on my 3-month long road trip, I could not believe the amount of Starbucks that were around. It was sickening to me. So if you're tired, you have a quick caffeine fix. If you're struggling with anxiety, you have a pill that you can take to calm down your emotions. If you're feeling low, there's a pill to make you feel higher, or there's caffeine, or there's other substances that you can use. If you're struggling with pain, there's a pill that you can take. But the underlying problem is not those little things that we feel or experience in our day to day. It's the underlying disconnection of our mind to our soul. Our mind is acting in separation of our soul. Our soul is always connected to God, source, universe, creator. It is always connected to the beautiful light that brought us here in the first place. Our mind is telling us something much different. It's telling us that we came here to have that caffeine in the morning, to be inspired through caffeine, to use the wine at night to relax, to use anything to feel better in this human experience. And so it really is a process of retraining the mind and retraining your body to feel safe and feeling uncomfortable. And that's the root of shadow work in general. Any negative emotion that we feel, any negative experience that we have, it's meant to be here for us to learn, grow, and evolve. The more we resist it and try to run from it and try to cover it up with something, the more it's going to rear its head later on. And so, really becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings in life is the root of what we talk about in shadow work and in this podcast a lot. But with addictions and vices, it's taking it one step further to recognize that these things that you're reaching for externally are reinforcing the fact that you are really saying, screw you to the gift of life, screw you to the experience you're supposed to learn from, screw you to God, source, universe, creator for making me come here. And that's just not the case. Like, this earth is beautiful. And when we can start to tune into the gift of the experiences, the gift of feeling uncomfortable at times, then that's when we can really surpass and ascend from the need to use these substances outside of ourselves. I know for me, I started drinking, back in the day, we'll say. And the first time I ever drank, I just felt at peace for the first time. And looking back, I recognize how sensitive I am to energy. And a lot of you listening, if you are into spirituality and or you're a developing medium, you're just sensitive to energy. And a lot of you are empaths as well. And that lends itself to really feeling a lot of energy, a lot of emotions throughout your day. And that can be really difficult. I recognize now that feeling of peace, that feeling of calmness that I experienced was due to the traumas, wounds, conditionings, and programmings that I was just harboring within myself energetically. That when I used that substance, those things went away for a moment, which was like the best feeling in the world. And then in addition to that, I'm just super sensitive to energy. And so I could be in a social place and just kind of hang out and not feel that intensity of energy or feel that negativity consciously. I think it was still happening and I was still reacting from that place, right? That's why you see people under the influence of substances that are reacting really harshly, but your mind isn't attached to that harshness as much. And so you're just leading with that energetic exchange, and your mind is telling you, no, you feel better. It's okay. This is how you really feel, and all of these things, right? So I went through my 20s and I started to work in restaurants. And that's when there was open bars every night. I could drink whatever I wanted. And that's when my substance use became definitely more prevalent. And because the restaurant industry, because hospitality in general is super stressful and super high pressure and it's go, 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 and you're handling crises all the time, it just lends itself to be really nice at the end of the night or during the shift, even to have something that takes the edge off. And then, in addition to that, in that industry, unfortunately, there's just people who have prescriptions for things and access to things that basically, if you're ever feeling one way or the other, there's always something to make you feel better. Whether you need a little boost to be more productive, whether you need to relax and slow down, there's always someone with some sort of substance that can help you feel better. And so it's just a culture, and I was involved in that culture for 10 years. I didn't realize how bad of an effect it was having on my life until I got a DUI when I was 26 years old. And that was a major wake up call for me, partially because of the fact that I recognized that I had a problem where I was causing myself to be in danger and other people to be in danger by drinking and driving. But when I got the DUI, I was court mandated to go to a class once a week where we learn about the effects of alcohol in drinking and driving. And the teacher in that class showed us a movie about how alcohol was so prevalent in our society and how we were so conditioned to be blind to the fact that it was just constantly being pushed down our throats, that we were just drinking without even realizing that we were being conditioned to do so. And I had just never thought of it that way. I think because I was so immersed in the restaurant industry and just it being a part of culture. Like, you went out for a drink after work, even if it wasn't like I was like drinking a bottle of vodka after my shift at the bar I worked at, although I did do that a lot. Going out to eat and having drinks and stuff, like that was just how I thought life was. When I took that class, I was like, wow, I've never really looked at it like that, like how much it's getting pushed down our throat. And she said, like, not everybody lives that way. And I was like, really? And I started to kind of pay attention to people, even at the restaurants that I was working at. I would look and see the people that weren't drinking when they went out to eat. And I was like, I just didn't realize that that was a thing. I grew up in a household where my parents did not drink in the house unless they had people over, which was very rare, or a party. But they did drink when we went out, like if they went out to dinner and stuff or to a concert or things like that. And so for me, I guess I was just under the impression subconsciously that most people just lived a life where they were drinking a lot. When they went out, that's how you socialize, that's how you have fun. And a lot of my other extended family did that as well. And so that was just life. And my friends from the restaurant industry, from college, that's just how we lived. And in my early 20s, I think that that's even more of the culture because you have less responsibilities and you're younger and you don't get as hungover. So in my late 20s, after that class, for about a couple years after that class, I definitely slowed down my drinking. Never drank and drove, but I was still dependent on it for like social occasions. until I got to be, I think I was 29 and I got Lyme disease. And so that was another 6-week period where I didn't drink. And about 4 weeks into it, I was feeling better after being really, really sick with Lyme disease. I started to want to go on a vacation where I was doing activities. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what a difference. I had never wanted to go on a vacation that wasn't sitting on a beach and drinking. Anytime that had the opportunity to go on vacation, it was go to the beach and drink. That's all I could imagine myself doing. And then 4 weeks into this sober period in my late 20s, I was like, I would love to go horseback riding in the mountains. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do an activity. This is so weird. So 6 weeks I didn't drink. Then I was off the antibiotics, feeling better, and started to drink again. And all of that went away. And I kept drinking and just going back to my normal life. And around then, I think the effects of the DUI class had worn off, and I did start to drink and drive again. I'm not proud of it. It is a part of my story because that's the major reason I stopped drinking when I did later on. It's just so different from anything that I could imagine myself doing, but it was my story. I just didn't have awareness that it was that dangerous. And every time I drank, I got this feeling in my heart and in my mind that I was okay. It was totally fine. I could handle it no matter how under the influence I was, unfortunately. And so thank God, and I do thank God literally every single day that I didn't hurt anybody at this time. And I'm not proud of it, but it is a part of my story. And I want to share it with you because I think it's important to recognize too that somebody like myself, who now spends their days talking about high vibrational things and being a good person and doing the right thing, has really not been a very good person in a lot of ways. And reconciling with that and forgiving myself for that has been a huge part of the journey as well. And it's something that if you are struggling with substance use and you're looking to really better your life, it's going to be one of the hardest parts of it is recognizing how much wrong you did during those times. And yeah, just reconciling with the fact that that's a part of your story. That's a part of your history. And it has to be okay in your heart space. Otherwise, you'll want to keep using substances to numb out that yucky feeling within your heart space of your past. So, anyways, that's kind of my story. And I just kept using substances because of the places that I worked. There, I was in more city environments towards the end of my 20s and early 30s. And so the substances were just more prevalent. And I was prescribed a certain medication that I became addicted to in my early 30s as well. And so it was just like a melting pot of what can I do to feel better, to feel good. And then I started meditating, and meditation was the only thing that gave me the same sort of peace that those substances did. And I didn't sit and meditate to just like tune out the world. I started to do guided meditations where you meet your spirit guides and things like that. And that connection and like actually experiencing an energetic exchange from beyond this physical plane of higher vibrational energy felt really cool and was so outside of myself. And it was exciting. It was exciting in the same way that that first glass of wine makes you feel giddy and excited, right? And so I started to get pretty excited about how that felt and like what was happening and was this real and all of these things. And at the same time, there was a person in my life that was really reflecting my wounds back to me. So like I wanted somebody to change and they weren't changing. And then they would call me out for doing the same thing, but it manifesting in a certain way. So for example, like this person would, do substances and drink and go out and cause an absolute storm in the public eye. Whereas I would go home and drink 2 bottles of wine and just cry myself to sleep and send text messages that were crazy or like buy $1,000 worth of stuff on Amazon that I didn't need. And so it was the same behavior manifesting in 2 different ways. And this person really reflected back to me that we were doing the same thing. It was just manifesting in different ways. And it was the wake up call that I needed. It was the mirror that I needed. And so if I wanted somebody else to change in my life and I saw the potential in them to live a better life without these substances, why was I not reflecting that back to me? So that combined with the meditation and starting to explore my spirituality really led me into knowing that I needed to change my ways. And I got to rock bottom through a traumatic experience that I've mentioned in the past. And that's when I started to recognize this is something that I really needed to commit to and that my life had deeper meaning. And through the meditations, I was understanding that I was very connected to something greater than this physical world and that stuff was starting to become more believable and felt really good when I did it. And just because I'm a psychic medium doesn't mean that these things were any more profound than what can happen for you, meditation will feel good if you get over the hump of the uncomfortable, frustrating feelings of starting it. I can assure you that it is difficult, but it is worth the time and energy to commit to meditation. And doing guided meditations to go on a little adventure can really keep your mind activated enough where it doesn't get frustrated that you're just sitting there in silence or sitting there listening to music. So I highly encourage everybody to start meditating. And that was really what kind of shifted the game for me. And then this rock bottom experience happened, and I was like, I've been given so many chances. How many second chances am I going to get? And shouldn't I show some sort of thanks and really learn the lesson here that I can live this life without these substances? And if I can see the potential in somebody else, if I can see how living without substances at all could help somebody else in my life, why can it not help me and why can I not commit to it? And so I just dove into healing and I did explore the 12 steps through AA. At this time, I did a little bit of research, but I was really, really, really not interested in giving my power to the alcohol. And I think that's where my shadow work steps in healing from addiction and vices differ from traditional AA programs because in traditional AA steps, you admit that you are powerless over alcohol. And it just didn't resonate with me. The connection to a higher power resonated with me at this point. The surrender resonated to me at this point. But giving my power over to alcohol, it just didn't work for me. I don't want to live in fear of anything in this human experience. I don't want to give my power away to anything. My soul is here to be in the power seat, to be so connected to God, source, universe, creator, to be so aware of my connection to God, source, universe, creator, that I can navigate any uncomfortable feeling, any need that is external to me with internal connection and internal support and guidance. And so I started to formulate my own way of dealing with my substance cravings and vices. And I started to recognize that the major thing that I needed to do was start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, like we talked about at the beginning. When I was looking for something to fill a void, when I needed a substance outside of myself, it was because I was feeling uncomfortable in my body, in my spirit, in my mind, and really becoming comfortable and doing the shadow work steps, doing the healing work to get to the root of the emotion that I was actually feeling at that time was the key that unlocked my ability to become comfortable with that emotion, to understand where it was coming from, and to heal it through doing inner child healing in order to really be at peace with the experiences of my past, with that emotion, and allow it to just be with me for a while. And doing somatic healing practices like breathing work or yoga and things like that reinforced my body's ability to work through the craving, to work through the issue. Again, there is a biological response to some substances that is extremely difficult to move through. And if you are going through this in your sobriety journey, my heart goes out to you. At the point where I decided to get sober completely, I gratefully was at the point where I was not physically dependent on a substance. That is something that I don't take lightly because I know that there are other people that are deeper into a physiological response that are going to have deeper issues. And that's where, detox centers and rehabs can be really helpful. But in addition to those things, you got to get hold of your mind and your energy. And so every time I was looking to use something, it was because I was sensitive to something that was going on in my life and I was trying to bypass the emotion to feel better. And so just recognizing that allowed me to identify when I needed to do the steps of shadow work, when I needed to do deep breathing, when I needed to be comfortable with the uncomfortable feelings. And in addition to that, I had to find out and become comfortable with who I really was. My whole identity was rooted around my work, which was rooted around my social life, which was rooted around drinking. And so I didn't have any hobbies outside of drinking. Luckily, one of the places that I worked had a bunch of people that were like going to the driving range. And so I went to the driving range with them once and started to golf. And so I started to do things like that on my own, by myself. And that is the hardest thing when you're going through these sobriety journeys and healing journeys is starting to become comfortable doing things on your own because other people are not going to change with you. And that has to be okay too. We want everybody to be on our side and be on board with us. And even in my sobriety, I had a friend that when we would go out to lunch or dinner, which we did often because she lived right near me, we would always drink together, and when I stopped drinking, she just didn't understand it, and she felt alone in her drinking, right? And she wanted me to drink with her, and so I was shocked at that time that somebody wasn't supporting my sobriety, but that's where you have to get really grounded and be really in a place of understanding that God, source, universe, creator has given you this gift of life. Do you honor that, or do you honor your craving, or do you honor the external pressure? When you go to a party and somebody says, why aren't you drinking? Do you let that affect you negatively, or do you stand in your power? Do you stand in your light and say, this is a gift of life that I am taking advantage of in this way? And that is my choice. Like, obviously, you're not going to say that at every party you go to, but feeling that inside, being able to enter spaces where other people's perceptions and opinions and things like that are not affecting you. And that is the whole point of finding yourself, finding your light so you can stand in your strength and you can honor your soul's experience here and honor the fact that you're learning an amazing and incredible lesson and taking a lot of pride in that and really being honored to be given this path. And so back to finding ourselves, we have to find ourselves and we have to find our light again. And that's where, the shadow work and going into your traumas, wounds, conditionings, and programmings and the underlying emotions that are causing you to need these substances, or really reconciling with the energetic experience of life and becoming comfortable with large amounts of energy coming into your awareness and knowing that that's okay and that's safe. And it's not like you were as a child when that amount of energy could be destructive to you. You're an adult and you can handle this, and you're meant to experience this amount of energy, and you don't need anything external to placate that for you. That is one side of it. But the other side of it is also finding your light again and who you really are. A lot of times when you're using substances, your whole social life and your whole experience in life is rooted around substances. Like, even if you go on a vacation, like, are you going to be able to get the substance you want, or do you bring it with you? Your whole life is revolving around that. And it's just a huge wake-up call to realize that and to start to live differently, and being okay with other people not being on board with that is one thing. Finding things that bring you joy and you really like doing outside of those things is another way to start to find yourself. And a lot of times, the things that you did as a child are going to allow you to really stand in your truth, stand in your light, and feel good as you navigate this. So for me, it was horseback riding or reading or golfing. I actually did all of those things when I was younger. I start to do them again in my adult life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is who I am. This is the life that I came here to live, not just numbing myself out with things that are making me feel quote unquote better. Right. And so, really getting comfortable with doing things outside of your comfort zone, getting some hobbies, and finding yourself again and doing that inner work, reflecting on the happy times in your childhood, reflecting on the things that you loved in your childhood and bringing those back into your adult life is something else that can help you as you navigate really taking control of not using these vices and these addictions to make yourself feel better. And whether you're at the point where you're using, hard substances in order to just numb out the depression and anxiety that you feel, whether you are just doom scrolling when you feel stressed, look at it all the same. You are using something to make yourself feel better that is separate from God's source, universe, creator. And that is a detriment to your human experience, period. It's detriment to your mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. It's just bad. You are bringing darkness into this world every time you do that. I hate to be that blunt, but that's how I look at it. And that's how I hold myself accountable too. Do I want to spread light in this world, or do I want to spread darkness? When you reach for that glass of wine, when you reach for that pill, but when you reach for whatever it is, you are creating darkness within your soul. And so you may even be doing shadow work. You may be doing inner child healing work. And you're like, why do I still want to reach for these things? It's because you're allowing yourself to. It's because that has become something that is more important to you than living a pure and intentional and light life. And that's okay. Like, wherever you're at in your journey, you have to honor it. It's not something to beat yourself up or feel negative about. It's meant to inspire you to think deeper about or feel deeper about your connection to God, source, universe, creator. Sometimes I'll consider God, source, universe, creator my boss. So, like, we have these jobs in life, right? And we want to please our boss so much that we work overtime and we go above and beyond for our boss, and we fear our boss. And and I'm not saying we should fear God, source, universe, creator, but we should honor the gift of the job we have of living the best life possible. And that best life possible is being a clear channel to hear God, source, universe, creator's guidance, to feel God, source, universe, creator's love, to really feel the gift of life. And so when we are putting things into our bodies or engaging in activities that take us away from that connection, it's like saying, yeah, okay, thanks, but no thanks to this gift of life. Like, we'll do it our own way down here. And it's like, what is that doing for us? It's hard. And even doom scrolling now is difficult for me to stop because it just feels good and it takes me away from the stress of whatever I'm going through. But at the end of the day, I'm here to learn how to navigate this life without a substance that makes it easier. My journey with caffeine started about almost a year ago now, so last July. So after I stopped drinking, I became addicted to sugar and caffeine. I had never drank coffee in my life, and I started to have one or two coffees every single day filled with sugar, and I could not go a day without sugar or caffeine. In July, I did a water fast. I think I've talked about this in another episode. I did a water fast, and that was the catalyst for me to stop drinking coffee. So I stopped drinking coffee, and then I stopped all caffeine, even tea. I had planned on drinking tea after that, but I started to really feel like I'm meant to learn how to navigate this human experience without anything. If I needed coffee to live, if I needed caffeine to live, God or the universe would have provided me with an unlimited abundance of caffeine, right? But we have to import it from other countries, at least here in America, in order to get it. And it wasn't used widely before a couple hundred years ago. And so I started to research about the history of caffeine use and the history of coffee and tea in societies and how we started to distribute it worldwide. And I started to realize it is absolutely crazy to wake up and have a headache if you don't have a substance in the morning. Yeah, it's just coffee, it's just a little caffeine, right? But that dependence on a substance like that, that need for that when you wake up in the morning, that need for something separate from yourself, separate from your connection to God, source, universe, creator, is taking yourself away from yourself. And it's literally causing the anxiety that you are taking a pill to then take away from yourself, right? And so the more that we can do naturally to help ourselves just settle into this human experience, it's going to help us with our mental health issues, our physical health issues, our emotional issues, and our spiritual issues, right? So I started to see how it was absolutely crazy that everybody was getting prescribed anxiety meds or even depression meds for that matter, but using the substance that completely alters your energy. Caffeine literally causes your heart rate to increase. That shows that it is energetically shifting the way your body is processing the substance and energy. And from my perspective, energetically, caffeine is completely taking us out of the stability of our root chakra. It's causing a huge imbalance in our root chakra, which then creates a whole array of emotional issues up through our crown chakra, through the processing of the energy, because we are completely taking ourselves away from divine timing. We feel the need to be so productive in this life. We feel the need to have control over things. We feel the need to be on top of things in this life. And that's what caffeine does for us, right? But it's completely taking us away from the divine timing that we are here to experience, the relinquish of needing things to happen in a certain time and allowing things to be. For example, you're in a job that you absolutely hate. You drink 3 cups of coffee every single day in order to feel like you're kind of on top of it and your boss still doesn't like you. The universe, God source creator, sees what's going on, right? Knows that there's another job that is better for you, but and will be able to provide you the experience that you need in order to get out of that job and into another job if you are a clear channel. Because you keep drinking the coffee, because you keep trying to prove yourself in using substances and blocking your connection to God, source, universe, creator, and doing a better job than your soul really came here to do in this particular setting, you're delaying the inevitable of you leaving this job and getting a better job. You're you're trying to control the narrative. You're trying to be something that you're not. And that is something that we really have to become comfortable with. Failure. Failure is meant to happen in our lives. Change is meant to happen in our lives. Allowing these things to be a part of our experience allows us to be led into the directions that we are truly meant to be in. We are meant to learn the lessons of failure in order to grow so that when we do go into a more aligned job, we're in a different energetic resonance that is completely conducive to really experiencing the beauty of this job and forming relationships that are amazing and being an inspiration to others. But especially with caffeine, we are trying to control our narrative so much that that surrender is just not possible. We might have really cool spiritual experiences throughout our days. We might have really amazing synchronicities that happen that our minds are like firing off, like amazing things are happening, but our heart is still not surrendered. It's trying to control the narrative. And then we end up in situations that aren't conducive to our highest good. And then we're like stumbling through life or we're feeling really low and we're like, why is this happening? Like I'm having these spiritual experiences or I'm having these really cool synchronicities, but I still don't feel good or I'm still dependent on this substance. It's because you're not a clear channel. It's because you haven't surrendered to God's plan for you, to the universe's plan for you, and you're still trying to create that plan for yourself. And that's where the surrender comes in. And I just don't see that surrender happening until you are a completely clear channel and you have at least tried to be completely independent from caffeine or any substances. Since stopping caffeine last July, I have started to drink matcha again a few times a week. And I go back and forth with it. Like, I don't, it's not in my highest good to do it. I know that, but it's just, I don't know. I just do it. Right. And that's the learning process. And it definitely is better than coffee for me. I don't feel the effects physically, mentally, or emotionally as much, but I recognize that it's still affecting me. Right. And I'm still dependent on it when I don't have it. I feel foggier. I feel more disconnected. It's a learning curve for me to be completely independent from it, but that's what I'm here to do. And at least I'm aware of it. At least my heart is connected to the fact that eventually I would like to live a life completely free of any substances, including caffeine. But for now, that's a process that I'm working on, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not beating myself up about it. It's just part of my experience. I'm aware of it. I am receiving signs about it, and I'm listening to the signs. Like, if I really get a deep sign, God forbid, tomorrow morning, I spill a whole matcha all over myself 3 times in a row, like, that's a sign, Cass. You're not supposed to have matcha today. And you actually following those things is honoring God or the universe's plan for you. Even if the next day you have the matcha, like, just acknowledging and feeling deep gratitude for the signs and following those little nudges, eventually they'll accumulate enough where they really fill your soul with the power it needs to really transcend the need for the external feeling. The last thing I want to talk about is how these substances can actually give us the false illusion that we're closer to spirit. I will say at the time that I started meditating, I was also taking unprescribed Adderall. It was not from, I don't know if I can say this on the internet. uh, yeah, it was not from like a pharmacy. And it wasn't what I had been prescribed in my early 20s for my ADHD. It was something that was much more addictive and caused paranoia. And yeah, but it was rampant through the industry that I was in and just something that was a part of the culture and something that I really enjoyed taking. That being said, I actually had incredibly quote unquote strong spiritual experiences when I was taking that and when I was drinking. Especially if I did both together, I would have the most crazy spiritual experiences. Like, I actually saw an apparition in my apartment and talked to it for a long time. Now, I can talk to that same soul that was in my kitchen in my mind's eye now, but he was actually appearing in my kitchen in like a physical form due to the way my brain was altered. And that's because it stimulates your mind. So if you think about it from an energetic form, like these stimulants are actually stimulating your brain. The alcohol is taking that control away from your brain that actually allows you to immerse yourself in the spirit world. Now, what can happen through this, though, is you might be more receptive to the spirit world because the alcohol has like numbed your need to protect yourself or control what's happening around you. And then the upper has like stimulated your crown chakra and your third eye, which is also what caffeine does, which is why you might have better visualizations in your meditations or in your mediumship when you take caffeine, which has been a learning curve for me as well. But so this has, shifted the way your brain is processing the energy and making it more strong. What I will say is that the next day didn't have the lasting effects in my heart space of that spiritual connection. It was just something I experienced in my mind and then was gone the next day. So whether you're getting like the full body chills and or you're having crazy visualizations in your meditation and it feels so cool, know that that is a false illusion of your spiritual growth. Your heart is not as connected as it could be if you had even like lesser visualizations or less chills all over your body. Your heart is where you evolve. Your heart's connection to surrender and to being the truest, purest form of you is where your soul's growth really happens. And it can't happen when it's constantly inundated with a substance and or shifting the way that you're processing the energy differently than you would through the natural progression of your astrological energetic setup, as well as how you're meant to experience life through the experiences that you've had. Because we're all processing energy based on our astrology, as well as based on our traumas, wounds, conditionings, and programmings. But if we truly believe that every experience is for a reason, then energetically, we're meant to learn through the way our body is processing energy in that way. Substances just take us away from that. Doom scrolling takes us away from that. It's shifting our mind into a place that is separate from God, source, universe, creator, and just really not allowing us to settle into this human experience as we should. And with that all being said, I'd like to leave you with a few journal questions for you to work on. If you are suffering from any addictions or vices that are taking you away from experiencing life in the pure and light filled way that you are meant to. These are from my new shadow work journal. It is called the Connections with Cass Connect to Your Truth Shadow Work Journal and is available on Amazon, as well as the Daily Alignment Journal that helps support you in your daily practices that keep you centered and grounded and sober, at least for me. So, yeah, these questions are from that journal, but they are really important for you to consider as you move through your healing and sobriety journey. So, number one is, what are the emotions that arise immediately before you turn to the vice? So, what emotion are you trying to avoid? What emotion are you trying to numb out by engaging in this vice or using the substance? Number two, is there a way that you can create space and awareness between the feeling of those emotions and actually engaging in the vice? This is crucial in order to actually stop yourself from doing the vice. So often we're doing the vice or using the substance before we've even really identified that we wanted to use it. Like, it's so natural for us to just pick it up and do it. And so, how can you create space from the feeling I need to do this to actually doing it? Because in that space is where you can unlock the key to reconcile with the emotion that you're trying to avoid and really connect to God, source, universe, creator, and feel deep gratitude for this gift of life and honor that over your need to feel better in that moment. Are there times when even good things feel overwhelming and you find yourself engaging in an addictive tendency to maintain control or numb overwhelming feelings? And this is an important aspect of even celebratory events or feeling super high or having a really good day, and then you want to go out and celebrate, then results in binge drinking that then leads you to regretting your behavior the night before because you can't show up to your family the next day in the way that is most conducive for them to be happy and healthy. It's so important to recognize that overwhelming energy is what's causing you to use the substance. Both negative and positive emotions can be overwhelming, and recognizing how to balance your energy and really settle into those emotions, both good and bad, is how you're going to be able to stop engaging in the substance use. Do you feel as though you had to become extra sensitive as a child in order to keep yourself safe or control an unpredictable environment? So, really getting into that inner child healing in order to help you move through the way that you were conditioned to use these substances or these activities that take you away from your truth? Can you really internalize as you move forward that overwhelming emotions are not threats that have to be managed through numbing behaviors? How does your surrender to the vices influence the energy of lives around you? AKA, what kind of darkness are you creating when you engage in these activities? And that's a hard one. And again, it's not to beat yourself up, it's to become radically aware of the fact that your choices have consequences, and you can either be engaging in activities that bring light to this world, or you can engage in activities that bring darkness to this world. And it's as simple as that. And on an individual level, in our physical experiences, we love to point out how the world is so dark and yada, yada, yada. But we don't do things within our own individual experiences that shift that frequency for the earth. And know that every time you make a better choice, every time that you make a more positive frequency choice, you are creating a better environment for this whole earth. When we let go of needing to see how that affects the earth, and we don't have to get the validation or reward back, and we just do it because it's the right thing for the earth and the right thing for our families and the right thing for us. That's when we've surrendered. That's when we allow God, source, universe, creator to work through us in the way that we're meant to, without needing the reward, without needing the validation, and just existing in a higher frequency on behalf of God, source, universe, creator's plan for this world. Another question is, what are spiritual practices that I can use when I feel overwhelmed by energy or emotions? Energy balancing techniques, meditation, journaling exercises, getting out into nature, connecting to your past loved ones through an altar in your home, all sorts of things you can do spiritually to help you navigate this process. It's difficult, but it's worth it, guys. I promise you. I live a life that is so much more peaceful, aligned, and balanced. So I speak from personal experience. We cannot control the bigger external things that are happening in this world, but we can choose how we are living our lives and the energy that we create in this world on a day to day basis for ourselves and for the rest of this earth. And with that, I will encourage you to leave light in this world and to give yourself some grace, but to also be strong about your convictions to become the best version of yourself and live the best life possible. And I will see you in the next episode.